Not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous. If I didn't get this job, I might literally run out of money. So I worked at a Japanese gaming company for about a year. And when I say gaming company, I don't mean GameStop or something like that. I'm talking about a legit game developer and publisher. Both during and after I worked there, whenever I talked to friends, they'd ask me where I worked. And when I told them the name of the company, I usually got flooded with a ton of questions. It made me kind of realize that a lot of people are really interested about working at a gaming company. And some people don't know anything about working at a gaming company. So I figured I'd make a fun video about it, because maybe other people out there are interested too. For many reasons, I'd rather not use the real name of the company I worked for, so let's call them Circle Onyx. Ta-da! So for today's episode, I'll talk about how I got hired there in the first place. Now, Circle Onyx is a huge game developer. In fact, I grew up loving and playing pretty much all of their games, and so I never thought in my mind that I'd ever get to work there because they were Japanese, and they're pretty much godlike, and I am but a lowly peasant. But fast forward, I was about 23 years old. I was already done with college, and I made a bit of money working random jobs, and just also finished a bit of soul searching while in my homeland of Korea. I spent my college years in Southern California and fell in love with the area. So once I was done with Korea, I bought a one-way flight to LA. But I didn't really have a job lined up, nor did I have a long-term plan of making money. So I kind of couch surfed for a bit at a friend's place, and then all the money I saved pretty much dried up quickly because I just didn't have an income and I had a lot of student loans to pay back. I was starting to get worried that I might actually have to leave LA. But a chance encounter changed all of that. In college, I started a dance crew, and one of my crewmates happened to be living in LA at the time. I told him I was in town and we should train together. So we met up and we had a training session. And when we were done, I kind of just asked what he was up to. And that's when he told me he worked at Circle Onyx. And you might be asking, wait, you said you worked at a Japanese company and you guys were in California. Yeah. I was pretty fortunate because even though Circle Onyx was from Japan, they had a North America branch in California. I'm usually super awkward when it comes to asking favors from friends. It's probably the Asian in me, but I was kind of desperate for money, and so I kind of just put it out there like, hey dude, do you know if they're hiring? And to my surprise, he was like, yeah dude, you should submit an application and say that you know me. I pretty much learned from this experience that for a lot of jobs, especially in the gaming industry, referrals are huge. So try being nice to everyone because you never know who might end up working at a gaming company. In any case, my friend referred me to a temp agency and they dealt specifically with gaming companies. Now, for those unfamiliar, a temp agency is a company that hires contract workers. Usually these are short-term contracts and aren't always the most glamorous jobs, but it's a nice way for you to get your foot in the door because they often lead to full-time positions and they can also help you network because again, referrals. So I sent an email to the temp agency and apparently they were in a big hurry to fill some positions because a woman from the agency called me almost right away. She did a phone interview, and if you never did a phone interview, it's usually really basic questions. And sometimes it honestly just feels like so basic that I'm just trying to convince you that I'm just not a serial killer or a psychopath or something. After I convinced her I wasn't a serial killer, she sent me an email that contained an online test. And again, to emphasize that they were in a rush, she told me, yeah, you have pretty much less than 24 hours to finish this. I remember the test was pretty standard, multiple choice, some basic math and grammar questions. But the portion I remember the most was an essay portion where I had to pretend I was a worker at a company and had to write an email to a customer who had a bad experience. I didn't really know what they were looking for, but I tried my best. Once I was done, I found out I passed, and they told me I could come in for an in-person interview. Because I was still couch surfing, I didn't have a car, so the friend I was couch surfing at also dropped me off for the interview. Big ups to my homie Steve. From the outside of the building, it looked like a pretty normal office, except for the big Circle Onyx sign to tell me it was a gaming company building. Not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous, not only because the company was Circle Onyx, but if I didn't get this job, I might literally run out of money. Talk about pressure. But I remember going up the elevator, and as soon as I got out, these huge, life-size figurines of Circle Onyx characters are there to greet you. There were cool posters on the walls and a ton of toys in glass cases. And so I thought to myself, well, even if I don't get this job, run out of money, and die hungry and alone, this was a pretty cool experience. I can die happy. So I checked in at the front desk and 2 employees came out. They greeted me and they took me to a back room. The 2 employees sat across from me and the interview began. You might be surprised, but it was a pretty standard interview. They asked me some basic questions. Why do you want to work here? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And I know talking about your weaknesses can be hard or weird, but I seriously suggest thinking this over before you go into any interview. Because you don't want to go into an interview and say that I have no weaknesses, because you'll kind of come across as conceited, but you also don't want to say my weakness is everything and I'm just a failure at life, because you might not get the job. So I usually go in the middle and say, this is my weakness, this is how I'm working to improve it. Another question I got was, when have you had to deal with conflict? And for conflict questions, you're pretty much going to get these in every interview ever. And I always talk about when I was a resident advisor in college and just all the funny horror stories I had. For those of you who don't know, a resident advisor is a student who lives in the dorms with other students and just tries to make sure they don't break the rules. But rule-breaking college students kind of go hand in hand, so there were a lot of stories to tell. Maybe I'll actually make some episodes in the future on that. And I guess another general interview tip, I find that trying to get your interviewers to laugh is always helpful because it breaks the ice and just makes you seem like someone fun to work with. As an example, they asked me, is there anything else about you want to share? And I just told them straight up, dude, I'm weird. I have a derpy sense of humor, and I just told them about how I love Adventure Time, and my favorite episode is when Jake the dog learns how to shoot mayonnaise out of his fingers. And to my surprise, one of the interviewers actually smiled and laughed and said, that's so awesome. I walked out feeling pretty good, but I never really try to get my hopes up with interviews because even if you do really amazing, sometimes there's just a lot of reasons outside of your control that you can't get hired. They may not have enough positions to fill, they may love you, but you don't have the technical skills they need. Sometimes it's even the son of one of the CEOs interviewing and they get the job, but hold on. Hello? I got the job? Alright, I know I left you guys on a cliffhanger, but don't worry, I do have some future episodes plans to talk about kind of what I did there and the benefits of working at a gaming company. I really appreciate it if you made it to the end of this video. This is my first one, and I'm trying really hard to kind of make everything myself, including the animations and even the music that you're listening to right now. If you like this video and you want to keep up with when my new episodes come out, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And because this channel is so new, I'll do my best to reply to every comment that I get. That's kind of one of the benefits of a newer channel. Thanks again, and until next time, Tentai out.